Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us once again on the State of Freedom.
The State of Freedom is a listener-supported podcast. We're committed to pursuing the truth about policymaking, decisions, and situations in Louisiana and at the national level that stand to impact our freedoms.
Please become a monthly supporter of the State of Freedom at freedomstate.us as we continue to expand the voice of liberty across Louisiana and beyond.
Blanco Brothers has been in business in Louisiana for about 30 years now. I have personal experience with this company, and I know others who have as well. If you have a business or a home and you've got roofing, gutter, sheet metal issues at all, one number you need to know, and that's Blanco Brothers Construction. He will treat you right financially, and he will take very good care of you with regard to the quality of the service that he provides. I cannot recommend Blanco Brothers Construction more highly enough. Memorize the number 225-226-4222. Let him work with your insurance company and let him treat you right if you have a problem. There's no more important commodity on your home than your roof. And, when there's a problem with it, you need to be able to trust both financially and with respect to the workmanship who is doing your work. Blanco Brothers Construction, the very best in the business.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the State of Freedom, where we are grounded in faith in the Constitution, and we are committed to giving voice to the truth, living with courage, and taking action. We are experiencing a boatload of tech issues this morning, so apologies for coming to you late. And Chris has apparently been booted off of the stream again, so we're just going to do our best to get this through today. It is Thursday, January 15th, and it's 10 a.m. Central. I'm Danielle Walker, and I will soon be rejoined, hopefully, by my friend and co-host, the watchdog in chief of Louisiana Citizen Advocacy Group, Chris Alexander. We are coming to you live on Voice of the People TV and radio network on Rumble, X, YouTube, and Facebook. You can always catch us later on our audio-only podcast platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcast. And a friend of ours, Mark Cook, is joining us today. Let me bring Mark forward. Hopefully that much works. Hey, Mark. Welcome to the show.
Hey.
All right. Well, Mark has been in the fight for election integrity since just days after the 2020 election, as many of you remember, and he has been a vocal defender and advocate of Tina Peters. Mark co-authored the Mesa County reports, which were forensic analyses of images from the county system that Tina was the clerk and recorder over. And we're going to talk about how her appeal went last week, the targeted attack on her that led to her getting arrested, I believe yesterday, on felony assault charges inside of the prison. And we will be discussing some of the latest developments with election integrity on this 5-year anniversary of Biden's fraudulent inauguration. So welcome to the show, everyone. I'm just going to check my phone real quick and see if Chris is trying to call me. He may have to dial in remotely or something because there's spiritual interference in this. Okay. He said that he's kicked out and he's trying to get back in. So I'll just keep an eye on this while I read the scripture of the day, and hopefully he will make it back in with us. Today's scripture is Matthew chapter 16, verses 21 to 26. And I lost my page marker. So here we go. All right. It says, from then on, Jesus began to clearly reveal to his disciples that he was destined to go to Jerusalem and suffer injustice from the elders, leading priests and religious scholars. He also explained that he would be killed and 3 days later raised to life again. Peter took him aside to correct him privately. He reprimanded Jesus over and over, saying, God forbid, Master, spare yourself. You must never let this happen to you. Jesus turned to Peter and said, get out of my way, Satan. You are an offense to me because your thoughts are only filled with man's viewpoints and not the ways of God. Then Jesus said to his disciples, if you truly want to follow me, you should at once completely reject and disown your own life. And you must be willing to share my cross and experience it as your own. as you continually surrender to my ways. For if you choose self-sacrifice and lose your lives for my glory, you will continually discover true life. But if you choose to keep your lives for yourselves, you will forfeit what you try to keep. For even if you were to gain all the wealth and power of this world with everything it could offer you at the cost of your own life, what good would that be? And what could be more valuable to you than your own soul? And I see that we have lost Mark, but I'm going to keep going, and hopefully both Mark and Chris will be able to join us. Let's see. Mark is right here. All right. And Chris may need to call in. Let me see. Y'all just bear with us. This is unbelievable. Let's see. Okay, so Chris can call me and I'll let him in. Okay, but what I wanted to share about this scripture was that Jesus told us that injustices and difficulties would be part of the cost of following him. He led the way as the one who suffered more injustice than anyone because he was completely and totally sinless. He also showed us that following him and following his example of self-sacrifice for his glory is the way to true life. The Lord's been reminding me and revealing to me in some new ways that his kingdom operates differently.
Chris Alexander.
All right, y'all. Hey, Chris, I'm just giving a scripture reflection. So just put yourself on mute.
No problem.
All right, thanks. So, I was just saying that his kingdom operates differently than the world's. The Lord's kingdom operates differently than the world's. And some translations of the Bible even call his the upside down kingdom because it's so counter to the human mindset. And the way it operates is that in order to attain the very things we desire most in life, we must first give of those. And that's true with his financial principles. That's probably one of the easiest places to see it. And it's true in how we live our lives. If we stay at home by ourselves with the main goal of protecting our life, we're not really living. It's in the acts of self-sacrifice to follow the Lord that he brings adventure and life more abundant. Think about the life of Peter, the one scolding the Lord. If he had stayed on the fishing boat and never followed Jesus, he would not have a place or a name in history of any significance. But because he left what was familiar and reliable to follow Jesus, he experienced Jesus up close. He cast out demons and healed people himself through the power of Holy Spirit imparted to him by Jesus. And Peter went up on the Mount of Transfiguration with Jesus and saw Moses and Elijah. He lived in the midst of countless prophecies being fulfilled. And he wouldn't have done if his life is so different because he followed Jesus. And the same kind of mindset could be said of America's founders. If they'd stayed on the sidelines and played it safe, waiting for someone else to stand up against tyranny, the United States of America would not exist. Nowhere in the Bible does God endorse playing it safe. What he does say is, leave your nets, leave what's familiar, leave what's safe, and come follow me.
And you know what, Danielle? You know someone who's never really played it safe?
Who's that?
Our guest.
Yes, absolutely. I thought this was such a perfect scripture for him, and the Lord led me directly to it this morning. Of course, he's being booted out of the video feed, Chris. I'm not really sure what's going on with that, and I don't know if maybe we should just text him and see if he wants to also call in. I mean, I don't need to be on screen by myself today. That was not the goal this morning.
You know what, Danielle? Sometimes we have to work through these things because you know full well the devil will try to get in there and put cogs in your wheels, but we're not going to allow it to happen.
That's right. And we were even just saying before the show that the We the People Bayou community has a Monday prayer call, and we have been experiencing such tech difficulties on the simplest infrastructure, the simplest tech. So I think Mark probably has a very important message for us today that that is being warred against.
Yes.
Let
It
me,
is.
I'm just going to text him and see if he'll call in, Chris, and we'll just get you both on the line.
No problem.
All right. Well, Chris, I teed it up that today we would be talking about what's going on in the case of Tina Peters, specifically how her appeal went last week, and the most recent assault on her that was clearly targeted and for which she has been charged with a felony assault. It's absolutely insane.
It is absolutely insane, Danielle. You know, you have this conflagration of events. You have the governor of Colorado.
Hey, hold on, Chris. We got Mark. Let's see if it's working.
Are we good?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, let's start.
Praise God. Okay, and Chris is on the phone, but if you get booted out again for some reason, Mark, just call me and we'll try and get both of you on by phone.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay.
Mark, I was just telling Danielle that, you know, that the scripture today was about the importance of taking risks in order to achieve victory. You know, we don't achieve victory or success by staying in our comfort zones. And I was just telling Danielle what a fitting scripture for today, because you are not one who stays in a comfort zone. You travel all over the country spreading the Lord's truth with regard to election fraud, and really, you know, an American hero, as I have stated on social media a couple of times now. So God bless you, Mark Cook, and thank you for joining us today on the State of Freedom.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
I want to start very quickly. I was just telling Danielle, Tina Peters, this recent conflagration of events. You have the governor of Colorado basically suggesting that her sentence was too harsh, probably, hopefully leaning toward clemency for Tina Peters. You have the appellate court hammering the prosecutor for the way that they handled the case. And it looks as though when she's about to be released, she gets charged while she's in prison with felony assault for defending herself against an attack by another female inmate. Mark, what do you make of all of this? And more important, how does the complexion of all this change if she is free? Why are they so afraid and doing everything within their power to keep her locked up to die in prison?
Well, because they don't want the citizens of this nation to realize that their elections are an illusion, that we've been voting for all these recent years, decades, when they've actually been massaging the results of the elections, and in some cases, just completely choosing the results. And that's the big secret. And that's also the big lie. The real big lie is that we have elections, because we actually don't. We have an illusion. We have an election pageant, an election show they put on. And that is so important to them, because that is the basis for their entire control of this nation and all these people. And anyone that dares to threaten that being exposed is their number one threat. And that is exactly why they are going so hard over Tina Peters, because they feel that they must scare every other election official, every other clerk, that if you dare look in the system, you dare question it, we will send you to prison. I mean, literally, America, we are so far past where you even think we are. It's not like we have a little bit of rigged elections and you know, people are figured out how to rig elections. No, 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 no. The power structures have been rigging elections. We are decades into this.
Yeah.
And we, because of the 2020 election, that's why they hate Trump so much. Because we finally paid attention enough and we started looking, all of us very nosy, meddling kids, as Patrick Colbeck calls us. We started meddling, we started looking, and we realized it's a sham. The whole thing's a
Yeah.
sham. And if they lose control of the election system, then they are restricted to manipulating all of us, enslaving all of us using their old tools, which is, the financial systems and medical, and they try to use big tech to manipulate public perception and mainstream media and all that. But with the elections are their easy button. All they can just pick and choose. That's how they immediately get in power. They don't have to worry about trying to convince people to vote for their crooked candidate. They
Yeah.
can just pick the crooked candidate. All they have to do right now is just get them on the ballot. And it's very
Yeah.
easy. That's how all our states are being taken over, by the way. What's happening is people will move to these counties and they'll hang out in the county. Sometimes it's only for a few months and then they jump on the ballot. Sometimes it's, 6 months or a year, a couple years. They just sit there and wait. And then when a position opens up, they put their name on the ballot and they run for it. Then the people that know how to fix elections from the outside just fix the election for them. And with mail-in ballots and the electronic poll books and early voting and all that, it gives them the ability to model the election, and then inject votes into the election that makes it look very real. You can't tell it's not real. And they're able to sway the election. So basically, they get their candidate on the ballot, they fix the election for their selected candidate, and boom, they're in. Then they do another one,
Yeah.
another one. Pretty soon your city council's gone,
Another
your
one.
commissioners are gone, your sheriff, your school board, all of it. That's how they're doing this. This is a pattern across the whole country.
But how specifically with regard to Tina? I agree 100%. But specifically with regard to Tina, how does the complexion of this change if she's released tomorrow morning? You're Mark Cook and you're advising Tina Peters. What's the first thing she does?
I'm not going to comment on that.
Okay. Well,
I know what they're
well, then
afraid of. They're afraid of
Okay.
her. They're afraid of, if she's released, they're afraid of the public not being scared of exposing election fraud anymore. They're afraid of our clerks, our election officials that know something is wrong from now looking and realizing that there's that they may not be punished or be able to be punished or held any longer. Because if Tina
Yeah.
is released from her shackles, that's a win for free speech
Yeah.
and exposure of these bad guys. So that's why they don't want to let it happen. And I have a feeling my gut is, when Tina gets released, I doubt she'll keep her mouth shut. I mean, if someone put me in a cage or let me rephrase it. If someone tried to, and they were somehow successful putting me in a cage for 473 days, I ain't keeping my mouth shut.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
So this is not just about Tina Peters. It's interesting. This is much broader. This is an indirect message to anybody who considers blowing the whistle on all this.
Absolutely. That's all it's about. It's not about Tina. Originally it was just to punish Tina for doing what she did. But the whole reason for the 9.5 years and why they made such publicity about it is because they wanted to create a message and scare the living bejesus out of every other election official. It was the performance. It's the J6. It's the election official. It's the clerk version of J6.
Yeah.
Do you think that's the same
is
reason?
also the same thing. It was a
Yeah.
performance.
Do you think that's the same? So do you think what they did to Colonel Reynolds, prosecuting him in Arkansas, comments that follows this pattern also?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
It's about the performance.
Now, Mark, Professor David Clements put out a video a few weeks ago, and it's recirculating now that Tina has been assaulted and charged. And that video lays the legal foundation and argument, in his view, for President Trump to use the Insurrection Act to get Tina out of prison. And we've seen over the last, 4 or 5 days that through Stephen Miller specifically, there's been some pretty overt communications about potentially invoking the Insurrection Act in Minnesota because of the violence that's going on there, the disruption that's going on there of ICE. Do you think that there's some plausible reason to believe that this would be something he'd do in Colorado to get Tina out?
I don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just want to throw Tina in the background here as well. There is a group that wants him to pull the Insurrection Act because they want to cause massive civil unrest. They want to stoke a civil war.
Yeah.
And if they're successful in stoking a civil war, that certainly would provide them the cover they need to manipulate the elections. They want chaos. They want everyone focused on all the chaos instead of the stolen election. This is just COVID all over again. It'd just be, civil war instead of COVID. And so that's what they're working for. So I think the good guys, I think, are trying to do this the right way to avoid that, because there's going to be a lot of collateral damage if that's the case, not to mention just psychological damage.
Yeah.
There's so many people that are confused about all this. And if you don't have the awareness going into it, you might get scared and freak out or do something stupid. And then, of course, we've got the brainwashed people on the left that have been, I call it deception-induced psychosis, actually mass deception-induced psychosis. And they are in a state of psychosis as a result of everything that's been algorithmically and digitally pushed into their brains. They are programmed. They are legitimately brainwashed. The one thing aren't, they are legitimately brainwashed. The one following ICE and harassing our law enforcement, protecting people that are here illegally. They're protecting criminals, and they're getting shot in the head. That, whatever her name Good was, she wasn't a mastermind of any of this. She's a victim of this psychological deception that put her into that situation to make her think that's what she was supposed to do. The very people she thought she was helping are the ones that killed her.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how disgusting this is. And
it is.
And that's what they want to happen.
Yeah. And in spiritual terms, Mark, this, in my view, is the spirit of lawlessness, and it is the Antichrist spirit. Because I was reading the account of Jesus's crucifixion recently, and when the people went, when the people were, when Pontius Pilate was standing before the people with Jesus saying, I can let him go, they said, no, give us the guy who's committed murder and he's the thief. We want him instead. And Pilate says, well, what has Jesus done? He's the innocent one. And they say, kill him anyway. And that, to me, that just outlines that this is the literal Antichrist spirit that wants criminals and thieves protected while wanting the innocent to die. Chris, I know you've been trying to get in and you can't see us, so you're playing double dutch.
No, I agree. I agree with you 100%. And of course, it's that very spirit, I think, that resulted in the concoction of this felony assault charge against Tina while she's in prison. Yeah. I think and Mark, you can speak to this, Mark, but I think the principal concern that the corrupt officials in Colorado have is that the governor is going to give her clemency, commute her sentence. There are some indications of that. But if he commutes this sentence, but they've instituted a new felony prosecution against her, that places it squarely back in the hands of the district attorney, in which case the governor has no power to commute. So they can continue to delay the process and keep her in prison. I believe that's why they brought these charges. They concocted this incident. But Mark, your answer to the question is absolutely profound. I mean, they are using her as an example of what will happen if you dare step forward and expose corruption. And speaking of corruption, you mentioned on social media, on X earlier, that Gina Griswold, meanwhile, in the same state, in Colorado, the Secretary of State, wipes the servers from the Dominion machines from 62 counties. She does this trusted build that results in the absolute expungement of all of the election records, which is a violation of federal law, which she could do 62 years, a year for each count on. Why is she not being prosecuted for legitimate, credible criminal offenses?
Well, it's worse. And it's Jenna Griswold. And it's not just Colorado that does the trusted build. Of course, they got to call it the trusted build or people wouldn't trust it, right?
Correct.
They can't call it the untrusted build. Everyone would reject it. So they call it the trusted build, and they have a pattern of doing these trusted build, or sometimes they call them an update, or security fix. But they do these, not just Colorado. Look in your state.
Yeah.
Look at the updates done to your voting systems and see if you can find out what they are. Now, if you have a really old voting system, there aren't many updates to do, but what they try to get you to do is they try to get you to upgrade your voting system to the latest, greatest voting system. And the reason they want to do that is that they have a better excuse on the latest voting systems. They can say, well, we have to install new versions. We have to do a trusted build. And then they get an opportunity to get their hands on those voting systems after every election. And they've been doing this. Dominion's been doing this around the country. It was not just Colorado.
Yeah.
Jenna Griswold worked in conjunction, her office worked in conjunction with Dominion to install the trusted build. But Dominion worked with other entities in other states to do the same thing after the elections. They went on a massive wiping spree of data post most election. And even Texas, where I'm at right now. As soon as this is the crazy things, there's supposed to be a 22-month federal requirement to retain election records, and some states add a few months to that. And like Colorado adds 3 months. So Colorado, it's 25 months that clerks must, by law, retain election records for. And that's exactly what Tina Peters was doing. She thought that what the Secretary of State and the vendor were going to do would have disrupted or damaged the election records. And by law, she is required to retain those records. So had she not retained them, even if someone else deleted them and she didn't take proper steps to mitigate that potential damage, she would have been held accountable for allowing the records to be deleted. So she took a backup of those records. Well, in Texas, the games they played with the citizens were this. They turned, and it was a 22-month retention period in Texas. They told the citizens that were demanding election records. These people told the citizens, you can't access it for 22 months. They turned the retention time into a hold it in secret time until after the 22 months. Then they said after the 22 months is up, then you can have access to those records. And citizens that didn't know any better, or I had their head up their butt, I have no idea, but they said, oh, okay, we'll wait. So they waited for 22 months, and then they went the day after to these counties and said, okay, we'd like the records now. And the county said, well, we only have to keep them for 22 months, and they were all destroyed. In fact, one of the counties, it was Monday, was the day after, and the county told the citizens that they came in on a Sunday. Yeah, because their government comes in on Sundays, and they deleted and shredded all the records on that Sunday before the Monday morning. This is the kind of stuff they're feeding to us.
What county?
I don't remember the name of the county.
Okay, but do you know if it was in Colorado? Do you know if it was in Colorado? Texas. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Texas is the one that played that game. Now, there may have been other states that played that game as well, but absolutely Texas did play that game. And then when they asked for the backups, because they're supposed to keep backups, every county reported that something happened to their backups.
Imagine that.
Every single county had a failure in their backup system. I saw the list.
Systemic backup failure.
Yes.
With a local backup.
Coincidental across counties, all these different backup systems, they all failed, every single one of them. I mean, what a coincidence.
And Mark, we were talking, you probably, I think, had been booted out when I was talking about the scripture, but the kingdom of God is an upside down kingdom, but we're living in an upside down world right now, which is totally different than that. And in an upside down world, Tina Peters is put in prison, with presumptive other charges, right? But the real reason is because she did her job. What is that? If the world gets turned right side up, what is the implication then for all of the clerks who did nothing?
Well, if we go right side up, then people will suddenly know what bathroom to use. So that'll be nice. I'm tired of seeing the line of people confused which one to go in.
That's true. That's true too.
Yeah. Well, I
That's
think
a
what's
great.
going to happen, the only obvious thing that can happen, it's what they're trying to do everything they can to stop, which is the citizens and our election officials that are citizens. I mean, not all of them are corrupt. I think most election officials are honest. I don't think they've replaced them all. I guarantee there are some corrupt ones out there, and we're getting more and more corrupt ones because they're using the system to put all their criminals into all these positions of power.
Yeah.
But they haven't replaced the whole thing yet. That was their plan, to replace the whole thing by 2030. But because Trump was so liked, they didn't have enough in their coffers to manipulate it and steal it from him the first time, because we got our foot in the door, and then people saw what happened in 2020. The jig is up. So what probably will happen when everyone realizes what the heck's going on is the good election officials are going to say, oh no, we're going to hand count. We're putting elections right back in the hands of the citizens. We're going to let them do all the work. And that's really the way it's supposed to be, is the citizens are supposed to do the work in the precincts. And then they're just supposed to return the results to their election officials. The election officials, all they have to do is aggregate all the results. They have a really easy job. And right now, a lot of them, for some reason, they think they're going to have to hand count all those ballots themselves. That's just not the case. The grunt of the work is done by the people. But that also takes the people getting off their, ass and actually doing the work. The people have to show up. You can't demand you want to have liberty. You can't demand you want to have control of your elections again if you aren't willing to get off your butt and spend a day or two a year tabulating those ballots in your precinct. You have to show up. Liberty's not free. You have to take action. And so that's what they're trying to stop. They don't want elections back in the hands of the people.
Yeah.
Because if elections are back in the hands of the people and our elections are reflective of our will, then the criminals are done, because we're not going to elect the criminals anymore. Elections are the citizens' last check on corruption. Fair elections are the citizens' last non-violent check on corruption. And if all the citizens realize they have no voice anymore, and they can't stop the corruption because the ballot box doesn't give them that ability any longer, well, that's the problem, is then they go to the cartridge box. And I don't want that to happen. That would be a horrible thing for our country to go through. But we're right at the precipice to determine one or the other. I really want the ballot box to be the key to our liberty. We have to do that.
Amen. And Mark, in your view, Tina's case and the fraud that Tina uncovered, is it connected in any way to Venezuela and what's happened with Maduro, the extraction?
Now, some people say it's connected, and let me settle this. Yes, absolutely, it's connected. And I know firsthand that it is. And let me just walk you through it. And this is not this Q conspiracy crap, okay? I was there. I went to Venezuela. I researched this. I talked to these whistleblowers at Smartmatic. Okay, myself. I didn't.
When did you go?
My trip. I can't say.
All right.
Say within the past 3 years. Okay.
Okay.
So, absolutely, Smartmatic, what they did in Venezuela is they built an election system that's fully interconnected. All the tabulators are connected over networks, whether it's internet or private network. It's mostly private network, I believe. But they've connected all the systems together. So they can sit there, the people that run the elections, they can watch the entire election in real time. As people are voting, they see it all. That also gives them the ability to manipulate that election by injecting digital votes anywhere at any time they want. And then they put this wonderful show on with what the citizens think are instantaneous results. But they don't know that the results can be easily modified. They can swap votes, delete votes, add votes, all they want, and the citizens would never know. And that's what they built. They built a big illusion magic show. So they got an election pageant they run, which is just to get the people to think that they have a voice, so they don't realize they're slaves. And that's what Smartmatic did. one of the chief architects of Smartmatic is Hyder Garcia, and he was there for 13 years at Smartmatic. Then he was ran an election in the Philippines, was under investigation for election fraud, and ended up in Placer County, California. Somehow he was told not to leave the country down in Venezuela, and he left and showed up in Placer County, California as the election director. Ran elections there for a while. Then he went to Tarrant County, Texas, ran elections
A
there.
Venezuelan
In fact,
national?
he claims to be an American.
Okay.
I don't know too many Americans who lived in Venezuela and worked in Venezuela at an electronic voting system company that architected it for 13 years that are still an American. That just, I'm sorry, that doesn't make sense to me. So he comes to the United States, even though he's being investigated for election fraud there. And then he shows up in Tarrant County, Texas, buys a whole new Hart InterCivic voting system. And this is right before the 2020 election. They have the 2020 election, and the guy that has the most experience running elections probably in the world, has been doing it the longest, and he's absolutely brilliant guy. Yes, Hyder, I know you're smart. And I've met him personally. Him and I sat this close to each other while he was trying to tell me how great his system was, and he had no idea who he was talking to. He ran an election and somehow botched it, and 20,000 ballots magically wouldn't scan through the tabulators. So Hyder had to put a team together to recreate 20,000 ballots. There was some glitch, and he recreated 20,000 of the citizens' ballots. That's a large number, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then after they finally got the ballots through the tabulators, that whole county turned blue for the first time since 1964. This is a Texas county, a red Texas county turns blue. Then I was following him kind of throughout all this, and I went out in public on a podcast with Joe Altman, actually on Conservative Daily, before it turned into Untamed. And I went out publicly and said, Hyder, I'm gonna tell everyone about you. And 2 weeks later, he quit. He resigned, and then he was hired by our Federal Election Assistance Commission, the federal EAC, our government that manages all of our election systems across the country, hired him as a consultant, which is insane. So I then let everyone up top know about this, and they didn't seem to do anything about it. And then all of a sudden I hear Dallas County elections hired him, and he came before the 22 election to run Dallas County elections. He botched the 22 election. They had all kinds of issues with the poll books and other stuff. Then he botched the 24 election in Dallas County, and he then resigned and was hired by none other than Hart InterCivic Voting Systems, the very company that he sold a really expensive Hart InterCivic voting system to Tarrant County a few years before. Now they hire him as the vice president of customer success.
Wow.
So that's how dirty that all is with the voting systems and the people involved. And Hyder's a big one of them, and he's still around. He's working at Hart, and Hart runs elections in a whole lot of states. In fact, they're one of the two main vendors in Texas.
Yeah. So, Mark,
I mean, it's insanity.
It is insanity, but it was very purposeful insanity, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And Mark, when you're saying that these people can sit there and watch elections in real time and inject votes, subtract votes, manipulate the system, where are they sitting when they're doing that?
They can be anywhere because it's all interconnected in Venezuela. So they just have to be connected to the network by any means. And they could do it from anywhere. They could do it from their cell phone. They could do it from the ocean. Doesn't matter. They could do it from here, from this country, or from anywhere in the world, because they've interconnected the entire system. Now, the United States, we were a little bit more stubborn. So we don't have a fully interconnected voting system like they do. They've got everything all in one. And we don't. We have a bunch of different products in the different companies involved, and different agencies and different products have people confused enough that they think it's all decentralized. But you can always integrate different products. We use products that are all integrated all the time. It doesn't matter what companies, when you go to log into some website now, websites let you log in using your Facebook account. They're not, Facebook doesn't own that website, but they're interconnected. And so same thing with our electronic poll book companies and our voter registration companies, and then our tabulation companies and our election night reporting. It's all interconnected stuff. It doesn't have to be the same companies. So it looks decentralized. It's an illusion. Again, the whole thing's an illusion. It's an illusion of decentralization when it's actually a very tightly integrated group of systems that all work together. So they can still accomplish the same thing like they do in Venezuela, but they got to go through a few more hoops. It's just a lot harder for the citizens to understand. I could show you the Smartmatic system and you'd get it. You'd be like, oh, yeah, that makes a lot more sense. I show you the US system and it's so complex that you can't put it all together and figure it out.
Yeah.
Would you expect that the DOJ will be questioning Maduro about all of this?
I don't know. I hope they do. I hope they do. I don't know how much of the DOJ is captured.
Mm.
You know, it's pretty crazy. Okay, so I'm looking at are you guys Sequoia? Yeah, are you still on Sequoia, or did Louisiana get a new election system?
We have not gotten a new election system. I think we are
Okay,
considered
you're still
100.
Sequoia. Okay. Well, good.
Sequoia is the
All right,
same as
so I
Dominion,
want
right?
No, but I
No?
want to answer the previous question about Smartmatic in Venezuela and is that connected to the U.S. and what's going on with Maduro and whatnot. Let me make that connection, and you guys are the perfect state to do it. So you're going to love this because you're the next node on this. So we've got Smartmatic in Venezuela. Then we've got this electronic voting company called Sequoia. That's the one that all of Louisiana uses. And then Sequoia is an older company. In fact, Sequoia doesn't exist anymore, technically. Sequoia had an office in Denver, Colorado, way back in the day. And a neighbor of mine worked at Sequoia with Eric Coomer back in the day. And this neighbor of mine had some problems there, and he realized while he was working there that they were manipulating elections.
Wow.
And he quit. He walked away from them because of this. And he's got all the dirt on him, and he's already given me all the dirt, so I've got it all. Now, here's the interesting thing he told me, and I interviewed him years ago before I knew any of this stuff. He told me that on multiple occasions that Smartmatic, or I'll say people from Venezuela, would fly up. A group of like 12 engineers would fly up into the Denver office to program the Sequoia voting systems. So we had people from another country, a foreign nation, being flown in. They didn't speak English, and they were programming the voting system that was being used to run elections in this country. You guys in Louisiana use that same system that's programmed by Venezuelans, not U.S. citizens. And then this individual quit when he realized there was, they were rigging elections and they were hiding things from election officials and the public. And Sequoia then turned into Dominion voting systems. And all the people it just changed a new name. It was a new name.
Yeah.
That's it. New badge, new name, new stickers, same people. And then now all of a sudden they're all working at Dominion voting systems. And, Eric Coomer, of course, was working way up there at Dominion voting systems. So Dominion is just the new name of Sequoia. Sequoia is developed by programmers in Venezuela. There's no question. We have all the evidence of it. It's not up for debate. Evidence is clear. And then lately, because Dominion got hammered when they got so exposed, I'm glad and proud to be a part of that. They changed their name to Liberty Vote.
Yeah,
and they're trying to convince people they're a whole new company and everything's fine, just like they did when they went from Sequoia to Dominion. They just keep changing their name. They're a chameleon. Absolutely, it's all fully interconnected. Yeah.
What about leadership? Doesn't Liberty, and I think he came out with a big statement that we're transforming elections now. We're going to be the paragon of election integrity. Who is the guy who owns Liberty?
I can't even remember his name, but yeah, he claims to be, a Republican conservative. Hey, there's a lot of corrupt Republicans too. In fact, the reason why we don't have this fixed right now is because the Republicans, the corrupt Republicans, don't want it fixed. They love the system as it is because it keeps them in power. Same thing with the corrupt Democrats. And it's really not Democrats versus Republicans. I want people to understand this. This is a corrupt cabal that puts on whatever tag they need to on their shirt to play the part, to put on the illusion that we have choice. This group has infiltrated both parties. Has nothing to do with the citizens. It's just a group of crazy people that are trying to take over everything. That's all it is. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what they've done. So they've taken over both. This guy claims to be a Republican, and the scam, the illusion was, well, it's a Republican that owns it now, so it'll be perfectly fine. But of course, it's the same software. They just
Yeah.
changed the name of it, and they threw it back through certification so they could try to get the same. I mean, they didn't develop new software in a period of months. They just put a new label on the same software and ran it through to try to fool the idiots out there. And I don't think there's many idiots left. I think we're finally onto them.
Yeah, and Mark, Professor David Clements also put out a great piece probably 2 months ago now that exposes exactly this this Liberty vote and the guy behind it. I listened to something pretty interesting lately. It was about Bitcoin and the development of Bitcoin, but one thing that stuck out to me was that the guy was a mathematician, and he said you cannot you cannot patent software because software is math, and math is a discovery. It's not an invention, therefore it should not be patentable. Do you think that's something that some citizens could use in court to say this software cannot be proprietary? In fact, no software can be proprietary because it is just math.
No, I don't. I don't agree with that. I mean, I'm a software developer, and it takes some unique skills to develop software. And it's not just math. It is it is equations. It is equations that you come up with that create, by given a certain input, creates an output based on the skill of the developer. So it's not just math. It's math that runs the equations, but you still have to come up with the equation. And there's an art form to software, the user interface and everything else. So I don't agree with that statement. I'm totally against electronic voting systems
Yeah.
of any computers running anything. And of course, we can't have, blockchain is the biggest pile of garbage in the world anyway, because blockchain's even worse than our traditional systems. No one understands how blockchain works. They understand conceptually how it works, but who's going to sit there? Bitcoin is like 600,000 lines of code. What citizen is going to be able to read 600,000 lines of code and understand it to see if their blockchain voting system is counting their votes accurately? I mean, it's just
Right.
like insanity. And I've
Yeah.
got citizens that say, I can't stand our existing election systems because they're too complex and they're all computers. We have to go to blockchain. And then I ask them, well, tell me how blockchain works. And they say, well, I don't know. I'm like, so you don't understand how the current system works, and you're demanding to go to a system you have even less idea how it works?
Yeah.
Walk me through that. And then they realize, oh crap, we can't do it. Because the only people that would trust blockchain are people that can actually confirm that the code is accurate. And there's only a tiny percentage of people, 0.0006% of people percent in the world that could read through that code and understand that it works. We can't have a system that only that tiny little percentage can verify, because what happens if that tiny little percentage happens to be criminals? Then
Yeah.
the rest of the citizens just have to deal with it. And that's where we're at now. So no, I don't agree with that statement. And plus, courts, what courts do we have that aren't totally corrupt at this point? We are
Yeah.
unfortunately past that stage. And that also frustrates me, because I see good people like IT people, IT security, cybersecurity people standing up going, well, I'm investigating this and I found this vulnerability and that vulnerability. And I'm like, guys, we're past that. What are you gonna do? Spend the next 10 years finding vulnerabilities? The courts don't give a crap.
Yeah.
They know that there's vulnerabilities. That's on purpose. They're not going to change it. We're so far past proving all these technical problems. The whole thing is corrupt. We can't control it. Game over. The only way to save our nation, hand count paper ballots on election day in person at the precinct, where the citizens count the dots and add the dots up and find out who wins based on who has the most dots. That's it. There's no other way to do it.
And do you think we're headed in that direction? Do you think that things are moving that way now?
Well, we got a group of people that get this concept and are trying to wake up the rest of the nation. But I think we have too many people that are totally ignorant, that still, they either don't think they don't even understand the concept of election fraud. And if you ask them, they say, oh, isn't that lie that the Trump people tried to claim? They're so far behind. They're decades behind.
But Mark,
they can't even, the concept of understanding it, they don't get.
Yeah, but Mark, it's interesting that you say that, and I'm certainly not saying that I'm not doubting what you're saying, but my 12-year-old son understands the concept that computers can be hacked. My 12-year-old son understands the vulnerabilities of computer systems and software. He doesn't have any issue with that. Why do adults not seem to grasp the fact that computers can be hacked? They're vulnerable to being hacked. So I guess the answer is, based on what you're saying, is that they know that they can be hacked. They know they're vulnerable, but they're benefiting by the current system. And that's why they don't want to do anything about it.
Only a small percentage understand that and know it's vulnerable and are benefiting from it. Most of the citizens are not as smart as your 12-year-old son. That's the problem. That's
truly counterintuitive to me, that a reasonable-minded adult would not understand and know that computer systems can be hacked. That just seems bizarre to me.
It's less than it's less than that
too, but
I think it's about the appeal to authority, right? So these quote unquote authority figures, people just trust them. I mean, look at what happened during COVID. You trust the science, you trust the experts. That's exactly what this is. If the Secretary of State says trust us, and this is a trusted build with the word trust in it, then of course we should just trust them.
But how many times? Go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
There's a lot of citizens out there, and COVID is a perfect example of that, right? They were told by their perceived authority figures to put a diaper on their face, close their business, and lock themselves in their house so they don't kill grandma. And look how many people fell for it. I truly, when that happened, I was like, these people on TV are crazy. Not a single American citizen is going to do this. And then I got in my car when they said, don't get in your car, stay in your house. So I immediately got in my car and started driving around. I was the only one on the highway. I'm driving down a highway that used to be, it's the busiest highway in the Denver area. There's not a single car on it but me and my car. I thought I was watching a movie. It was the most bizarre. It was like apocalyptic. And no one was there. It was empty. And I'm sitting here driving going, am I dreaming? Right. Do I live in a society of just total lemmings? What on earth is going on? That hit me so hard of how totally clueless most all of the people I live around are about this. And the bad guys took advantage of the psychological programming and the dumbing down of Americans that they had taken part in for decades. And we are seeing that. Yes, we have a massive amount of ignorance out there. We have a massive amount of people who not just ignorant and not because they're, I don't want to shame them or anything. There's a lot of very good people that don't have the gift of awareness. They are going through the motions. They don't have the cognitive capacity to understand that level of awareness. Their brain isn't capable of reaching that particular gear. And that doesn't mean they're a bad person. That just means that they're not equipped for this. And that means the rest of us that have the gift to be able to see this, we need to be there to help them, even though they're not ever going to understand it. And you can't push a noodle. So what we have to do is those of us that can need to, for those of us that can't. And there's a lot more that can't than can, which is shocking to me. It sucks. And I'm sure it's shocking to you as well, because you see it so clearly. You're like, how does everyone else not see this? But that's what it is. I've traveled the whole country and this is what I see.
Yeah. But to some degree, Mark, I don't think all of the ignorance is innocent ignorance. I believe that some of it is willful ignorance. because there are people who simply cannot psychologically grasp the fact that their government that is charged with securing and protecting them could lie to them on such a colossal scale. They just don't want to go there. They can't go there. And so I think some of this is truly willful ignorance. It's not so much that they don't have the mental capacity, they don't have the psychological capacity.
It's psychological ignorance, because the brain's got a protection mechanism in it, and the brain protects itself from fear. Our brains are, they're physiological units that, get rewarded and get punished by chemicals. And a chemical is released when the brain experiences fear. So the brain does things to try to avoid experiencing fear, because it doesn't want that chemical. It doesn't like the chemical. And when people have to, when they get to the point where they're about to realize something that causes them fear, their brain protects them from that. And so people are, fear. That's why COVID was so effective. That's why when bad actors want to program people, they put them in a state of fear. People in a state of fear do not think clearly. And this is exactly what they do, is they take advantage of people's fear, because the people don't have faith. We have to have faith, because faith counters fear. And they took advantage, they got rid of faith, and then that leaves fear there. And it really is, I can't blame the people. It's not like they're willfully, it's not like they're saying, I'm not going to believe it. Their brain is actually playing a role in stopping them from being able to believe it. So what we have to do is we got to figure out, how do we crack the shell of that egg? How do we relate to them in a way and take them through that understanding without the fear aspect? Get rid of the fear component, bring them towards knowledge and understanding. If you can help them do that, then if they don't worry about the fear and they can set the fear aside, you can get them across that threshold. And I try to do that as well with that particular group of people. And then, of course, there are the small percentage that absolutely know it all, and they don't give a crap, and they are part of the structure of deception that is doing this and taking advantage of people's fear to keep them totally deceived and in the dark. And those people I have no scruples for, and I have no problem going right at them.
Yeah. What do you think about this SAVE Act that people are calling turbocharged on X, that Speaker Johnson and Scalise are putting forward now?
I've heard that it does not do enough. I like the fact that at least it brings attention, and it does do something. And right now we have nothing. So I'm fully supportive of anything that gets us closer to exposing this. But ultimately, we have to put elections fully back in the hands of the people. Duct tape is not going to be a long-term solution for this.
Yeah.
And the powers that be are not ever going to want to implement a system that puts elections back in the hands of the people. They're just not going to do it. They'll give us just enough so we have the illusion that we have control again, to appease the masses so they can keep doing what they're doing. And at some point, the American people are going to have to say, F you, I'm done. We're counting our own votes. We're going to run our own elections, and you're going to have to accept our results, not the other way around. And I fear that we are getting to that point.
Do you think we're going to have any action, Mark, from the Trump administration in the form of executive order on elections between now and the midterms?
Well, we've definitely I'll say this. I've seen evidence that would support that is absolutely one of the possibilities that we will see action. I've looked at what's gone on over time, over the years, over the months. I've looked at the releases, the posts. I'm looking at the undercurrent. I can kind of see the shapes through the fog. And it certainly looks like we're heading in a better direction. However, if I was a bad guy, what I would do, my tactic would be to kick the ball down the road as far as possible, string things out as long as possible, long enough. You got to keep the people thinking there's a solution coming, and then you don't do anything. And then you end up in an election again where there's not enough time to fix it. Yeah. So it could go either way. If I was a bad guy and I had unlimited resources, that's exactly what I would do. I would patronize people long enough. I would string them along I'd run the clock out, and then I'd get another election where I take full control. And actually, I think we just saw that in Virginia when they got control of Virginia, and they immediately have a bill now. What is it? HB 968, I think, or 986, where they just made hand counting paper ballots illegal. And
What?
California has already made hand counting paper ballots illegal. And so that's what they're going to do. They're going to change every law possible to lock the elections into these electronic systems, which really they want to go to this. They want everyone voting, mobile voting on these. They're going to claim it's blockchain. They're going to claim it's safe and it's instant, and you get pretty little graphs and you can see everything. They're going to sell it like, the illusion that it is. And at that point, they're just, may as well just tell us who won. Why even bother having an election? It's just a waste of time and waste, but they like the money. They like to take, because election systems cost money. And that's yet another way they can grab money from the citizens and pay for the system that puts on the illusion that the citizens have a voice. I mean, it's so clear to me how the whole thing works. And that's why at some point the citizens are going to have to be done with it. They're going to have to make the decision that they're done. And when enough people in this country make that decision together, it's over. That's how we fix it.
Yeah. And I think a great facilitator of that awakening would be Tina Peters being free and being able to speak freely about what she observed and what she saw. I think, Mark, that getting back to Tina, I think they've turned her into a national hero. And I think that's what, in the minds of many Americans, increasing numbers, she is. So I think they probably fear now more than ever her being free, because she could be the catalyst to precisely the sort of revolution, for lack of a better word, not violent revolution, but revolution regarding our election systems that we desperately need. So I'm hoping and praying, obviously, for good results here. And we have to continue to pray for Tina Peters, because she's a linchpin, a huge linchpin in all of this.
She's a total hero. She is one of the few that stood up no matter what. And she's still being persecuted at 474 days in prison now. She never took the deal. She never caved. And she was told, it'll all go away if you apologize and say you're wrong. She essentially gave him the middle finger. And this is the punishment for doing so. We are there, folks, and she is absolutely a hero. But I'll tell you what, no matter what they do to Tina, it's not going to stop what's going right now. It's not going to stop the eyes being opened of the American people. In fact, if another hair on Tina's head is harmed, it's only going to create more fury in all of us. Yeah. And I certainly am not going to stop. They're going to have to kill me to stop me at this point.
Yeah.
Because I ain't stopping.
And Mark, on that note, you are traveling this direction to Louisiana pretty soon. Do you have dates on the calendar and anything you want to tell us about what you're hoping to accomplish when you come?
I absolutely do. Can I share a screen real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me share my window here. Let's see if I can do this. Oh, beautiful. It will let me do it. All right, here it comes. So there's my tour, and these are all the states I'm hitting this year, as long as I can sort of do my best on God's hands. My dates, January 25th, February 3rd. And I don't have anyone in Louisiana that has set up events yet. And it starts in 5 days. I'm coming into Shreveport.
We'll work on that,
So I need someone in Shreveport to contact me immediately, like today. Go to handcountroadshow.org.
Oh, sorry.
.org. And right there at the bottom right of the screen, you can see handcountroadshow.org. Anna, I need you to do this right now. Sign up for a visit. It's not hard to set up an event. Literally just find a venue, a church, the back room, front, a coffee house. I don't care. Couch in a coffee house. It doesn't matter. I'm going to drive through and I want to spend some time with you, the citizens, and educate you, give you all the information I can, the full brain dump, and answer all your questions, and then give you guidance of how we, county by county, can reclaim our elections, and you can protect your county, and return it back to you. You also don't want it taken in the future either. Even if you don't think it's taken, you might already be infected. So I want to let you know, look for, so you can stop that from happening. And I'm going to come all the way. I'm going to start in Shreveport, and I'm going to work my way south and east, and then I'm going to pop out the southeast side of Louisiana and go up into Alabama. And I do have 2 events set up in Alabama. They've already contacted me, and probably a 3rd or 4th showing up here pretty soon. And then from there, I'm going to head straight, and you can see the rest of the spaces I'm going to be. I'm going to go right up against on the coast, all the way up into Maine, and come back through the middle part of the country and come west, and all the way up to the ocean. I'm going all out because I'm all in.
Beautiful, beautiful. We have listeners in Shreveport, Mark, that are probably listening to you right now. So that's exciting to hear that you're going to be down here in Louisiana for sure. Well, Mark, you say Tina Peters is a great American. You're a great American, and we really appreciate everything that you do. And I can't wait to see you when you get down here, and we will treat you good, sir.
Yeah, and Chris,
I am
just
so
so you
excited
know,
to see you all again, and thank you.
I was just going to interject that I promised you already, not Mexican food, but real Cajun food when you come this time. I'm putting you on notice,
Sounds
Chris.
good. Most importantly, I need to get events set up all over Louisiana. Yeah. I want to hit at least 5 to 8 counties as I come through there. And I'll do them in order. So I need everyone on the northwest side to call me immediately so we can start getting all you guys set up, because I'm going to be there in 5 days. I just finished my last one in Texas, and I'm going to do some repairs on my trailer, and I'm on my way. So I've got to get those events set up, because I'll tell you what, if I get there and there's no one to talk to, it's going to be a whole lot of wasted driving for nothing. And I get about 8 miles a gallon in my diesel truck. And, I'm going out of my savings account. So if I run out of money on this journey, I'm done. So I want to, I'm crowd surfing. Essentially, I'm citizen surfing through all these counties. And typically, one county fills up my tank and gets me to the next county. And that's basically what keeps me on the road, is just the help of the citizens as I travel.
Yeah, we won't let you down, Mark. We're not going to let you have wasted time in our state.
Not at all.
Awesome.
Not at all. But yeah, and I'll give you I'm going to give you a huge box of peanuts that will at least get you to Maine.
I appreciate it. Well, everyone just sign up for the Hand Count Roadshow right now, so I get you on the list. And I'll tell you what, when we're done with this, I've got a meeting in about 45 minutes. Then I'll back, and everyone that signed up, I'm going to spend the afternoon and evening calling all of you and getting these events coordinated. And then I'm going to put everything up on the website ASAP. And then that way people know where I'm coming into and when, and we'll get all these hard on the calendar.
Sounds excellent, Mark.
Mark Cook, pleasure as always, sir. Godspeed, and we look forward to seeing you.
You guys are awesome. Thank you. See you soon.
Thank you, Mark. God bless.
Thank you. You too.
Chris, we have had so many struggles today with our technology, but I am so pleased that we were able to have the conversation with Mark, and it's a little weird not having you on screen. It's kind of like the old days, except I'm not used to being the only one on the screen.
Well, you know what they say, some people who never go on screen, they say, look, I have a great face for radio. But I don't think that's necessarily the case for me. But I agree with you. I think we have so much to be thankful for that we were able to get on and get the message out. And what a powerful message. Do you know something that Katie told me, Danielle, that it just occurred to me a few minutes ago?
What's that?
Every time, and I don't know if you recall this, but almost every time we had Tina herself on our show, or almost every time we have someone who's coming on to talk specifically about the election issue and the truth about our elections, we always have technology problems.
Wow.
So interesting. And Katie noticed that.
Yeah.
And yet we fight through it and work through it. There is something here that the devil himself is trying to keep suffocating, to
Yeah.
keep down. We're not going to let that happen.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And greater is he who is in us than he who is in the world, and there's more with us than there are with them. So we know, Chris, that we're already victorious. And I just appreciate you so much for fighting through this and even joining by phone. I just can't believe how much tech interference I have experienced in the last several, I don't know, probably like the last 2 weeks. It's been out of control. So we know we're on to something, and I think we must be at the tipping point of something really great happening because of all the interference, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a fight in which we should be happy and thankful to be involved in.
That's
You
right.
know, there are a lot of people who don't have the ability, for whatever reason, to engage in the fight. And, you know, righteous fights, righteous battles are things for which to be thankful and to fully immerse ourselves in. And that's the way I look at this, and that's the way that I feel, because I believe we will look back on all of it with gratitude, humble gratitude that we engaged and that we confronted evil directly. And that's what God is asking us to do.
Yeah.
He is asking to confront evil directly, just like the apostles did after Jesus rose from the dead and ascended to heaven. And Peter and the apostles were out shortly thereafter preaching, and they were being threatened with extermination, threatened with death, and specifically ordered not to preach the gospel anymore, not to talk about Christ anymore. And Peter said, it's all we can do.
Yeah.
It is all we can do, and we will continue to preach and to teach boldly. And that is what we are called to do as well. And I intend to fulfill that charge.
Yeah. Amen, Chris. And I'm right there next to you. A couple of announcements before we run for the day. The first is right along that theme, Chris, that tomorrow is our first Warrior Wednesday with a guest. We will be hosting a true warrior, JJ Carroll. And just as an aside, people have said that his interviews with us have been some of their absolute favorite interviews that we've done. So we are really looking forward to having him on the show tomorrow night at 8 p.m. That's not going to be the typical time of these Warrior Wednesday slots. It's going to be our typical time is going to be normal, you know, like 10 a.m. Central on Wednesdays. But because he's returned to Border Patrol and has a day job, we are going to be doing this time slot to accommodate his schedule. But it's an exclusive for subscribers only. So if you want to join to be able to participate in these Warrior Wednesday events, that we have exclusive conversations with just incredible guests, this is an opportunity to do that. You can visit join.freedomstate.us and sign up for as little as, honestly, less than $10 a month, because if you pay for the annual, it's $100. So, and if you do too, you get a couple's subscription, then it's less than that per person as well. So would encourage you to join us and become part of the Warrior Circle, support the show. It just means so much to us, and it allows us to keep going. And also Thursday, we will have Will Chamberlain joining us again. He works with Mike Davis over at the Article 3 Project. I know everybody knows and loves the work of Mike Davis and his tenacity. We are going to be talking about rogue judges and how to get rid of them, and the uncovering of so much fraud that continues to come out.
Absolutely. And Danielle, I want to, before I sign off here, I just want to close here with the last thing that David Clement said on his most recent podcast. He said, "Let it be Christmas Eve when Tina Peters walks free. Let her step into the snow, a gift to her and to all patriots who held the line. She is worth the saving." And indeed she is. Indeed she is. God bless you, Danielle.
Amen. And Chris, do you have the ability to do an ad read for us for Red Zeppelin Pizza?
Absolutely. Red Zeppelin Pizza right up on Perkins Road. I have been going there for years now. In my opinion, my humble opinion, the very best pizza in Baton Rouge. The ambiance is unbelievable. The atmosphere is unbelievable. It's impossible not to be in a good mood at Red Zeppelin. It's just a wonderful place to go and bring your family and eat good pizza. The very best in Baton Rouge, and maybe the best in Louisiana. So if you're in Louisiana, Baton Rouge, anywhere, and you're looking for a good place, or you're just in town visiting, a good place to eat pizza, Red Zeppelin on Perkins Road. I can't tell you how much you will enjoy it, the pizza and the atmosphere. So take advantage of it. Red Zeppelin, the best in Louisiana.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Chris, and God bless you. I will be talking to you soon.
God bless you.
Meet the world's first living, full-spectrum, certified organic CBDA hemp extract. Ness's hemp oil was extracted from seed to bottle without chemicals, solvents, or heavy metals, and it surpasses world-class standards for purity. This pure and powerful CBDA has been proven to reduce aches and pains, ease mental tension, and promote better sleep. To get yours today, visit the Shop Our Partners page at freedomstate.us. Thanks for joining us today on the State of Freedom. Be sure and check out the show notes for this episode. You can always go there and find the calls to action and resources mentioned in the show, and you can find out more information about our advertisers there as well. If you want to learn more about us or support our work, visit freedomstate.us. To get involved with Louisiana Citizen Advocacy Group, visit lacag.org. We'll see you next time. God bless.